Yeah, it's 8:17. Matt Williams, good morning to you. How are you?
G'day, Jeb. Going very well, mate. Yourself?
Yeah, pretty excited about this game at the weekend. Excited / a little bit nervous. Ron O'Gara, of all of the people in the world, might be capable of pulling a rabbit from the hat.
Well, it's a very good La Rochelle side. They've been in the final before. And when your coach gets you to 3 finals in a row, it's no accident. So they're a good side, a quality side, and they're capable of performing. And it's going to be difficult for Leinster. It's going to be the forecast is 31 degrees in Marseille. At 6 o'clock, it's said to still be 29 degrees. Now, as an Australian, I played a lot of rugby in hot weather, and I can tell you that even for someone used to it, that's hard. That's going to be a real challenge for Leinster to play in those conditions and to hold it for 80 minutes. So, yeah, there's plenty to be nervous about, but there's plenty to be confident about as well. So, which makes for a great game.
Can you acclimatise in the week before the game, something like that? Or do they just sit in the sauna all day and do a bit of training? Or how do you work it?
Good question. Well, we used to go, in the old days, a long time ago, we'd go to Africa for 10 days. And we would quite often start our Super Rugby season when I was coaching the Waratahs with a game in South Africa in late February, which is summer, and it would be 34, 35 degrees. So we would go there. But we were already used to it because we trained all over summer preparing. Our pre-seasons are in summer. I think it is very, very hard for a one-off game to prepare for that.
Does it give the French team a bit of an advantage given that they're used to these conditions?
Without doubt. Especially in the last 20 minutes of the game. That's where your bench is going to be hugely important. But some players obviously have got to do 80 minutes. La Rochelle, now not all the La Rochelle players played last week. They played Stade Francais in La Rochelle and they beat them with very much a seconds team. But it was a very warm weekend last weekend as well. It's 27, 28 degrees. So the French, end of the French season, they certainly have an advantage. And if it's going to be a very warm weekend this weekend coming in Marseille, that is a big advantage to the French, yes.
In terms of the Leinster game plan, like the high octane style, the quick turnover at ruck time, is that something then that La Rochelle look at and say, if we can stay in touching distance with half an hour left in this game, we can absolutely start to turn the screw?
For sure. I mean, Ronan's going to be hanging his hat on a whole lot of small pegs and trying to keep his team believing they can stay with a Leinster side that's just wiped everyone all season. I mean, Leinster have been head and shoulders above all the competition all year. And for a coach, when you're coming up against that, that's quite a good assignment. And that sounds a bit counterintuitive because you simply say to your players, you've got nothing to lose. Like, look how good these guys are. Let's just go at them. And here's the plan. And their plan, La Rochelle plan, has always been this season to target the breakdown. And they have been exceptionally good at it in the top 14 and in the Heineken Cup, where they're just diving at the ball, being very brave and technically correct at the breakdown and disrupting teams' attack. And you could see it in the semi-final against Racing 92 when Racing were just pounding the La Rochelle line, looking like they're going to score it at any time. Then the La Rochelle back row of Ludenberg or Victor Vudo and Gregory Aldred and Bugatti the hooker would find a way to latch onto that ball and force a penalty or a turnover. And that's what they'll do to Leinster, as well as attack them at the scrum and the line out. So if La Rochelle have got any hope, that's what they've got to do, because what Leinster do better than anyone in Europe is play very quick ball. They get their ruck ball going at such a pace the defence can't adjust in time. And then you've got masters of decision-making like Sexton getting the ball of Jamison Gibson-Park so fast. Jamison Gibson-Park gets the ball away so quickly and he doesn't get anywhere near the praise he deserves for getting that ball away. And it just creates this chaos in the defensive line. So for any hope, they've got to slow it down. But they do have a hope. I'd say Leinster are well and truly favourites and should go on to win if form is anything. But we all know in a final that anything is possible. So that's what Ronan would be aiming at. But don't let's not get too scared about this. This is a very tall order for La Rochelle. Leinster are very, very good, and La Rochelle will have to do some extraordinary things to slow them down.
Over the last 3 years in particular, Leinster have run aground against a massive pack which has always had one individual at the centre of it who seems to kind of become the focal point for the shorthand maybe for why Leinster failed. And that might be completely oversimplifying things, but it certainly felt as if Leinster were coming up against a team that was too big or too strong for them, and that was the bit that killed them at the end. It doesn't seem like that's even on the table anymore for whatever reason. Is it because Leinster's style has evolved? Is it because they're playing a slightly different game and they're not getting sucked into those arm wrestles? Why are we suddenly not seeing so much concern for the repeat of the Saracens games and what happened against La Rochelle last year?
Drew, I think that narrative of Leinster being bullied by big guys, it was a real oversimplification of the games against Saracens and La Rochelle last year. And when that goes out into the public, it gets a life of its own. And I've never subscribed to that. Now, last year, Leinster without Sexton, Jamison, Gibson-Park and Porter for the La Rochelle game. You don't win, you don't win Europe every year because it's hard. I mean, the team that's won it the most is Toulouse. They've won it 5 times. Been going 25 years. Everything has to align for you in a year to win the Heineken Cup. You have to get a good draw. Your players have to be fit at the time of the big games. And on the biggest days of the year, you've got to play well. And that hasn't been the case for Leinster since 2018. Certain things have gone wrong. They didn't deal with Will Skelton well last year. But look at last week or 2 weeks ago against Leicester. There were some giant Leicester forwards on that field, and Leicester just dealt with them because they're in form. There's a couple of aspects to that. One is Leinster, have played the same system as Ireland. That is, Ireland have played the same system as Leinster, so they haven't had to chop and change. I'm just going to grab a drink of water, mate.
Yeah, no worries. It's the heat in France.
Mate, I've got hay fever. The wind's blowing off the mountains here, and everyone is absolutely shattered with allergies. So I'm struggling a bit today. But look, Leinster have had to deal with all these slight problems, and when I say slight problems, you have to be just at your best to win the Heineken Cup. If you're 5-10% off, you're not going to do it. And that's been the case with Leinster the last few years. This year, with Ireland playing the same system as Leinster, they haven't had to change. They've actually got better. They've all played together through all these big matches. They've grown in confidence. They've dealt with Antonio, the big tight head prop who's going to play for La Rochelle. They dealt with him against France. They've already got experience again. Porter knows what he's up against. The whole front row know what they're up against. It's not going to be a shock to hit Antonio because they've seen it against France. This is a really unique year for Leinster. The other part is you look at this Leinster side, and I'm touching wood here, they're going to come to the final with pretty much everyone on deck. It looks like the case. And everyone in good form, a lot of self-belief, a good rest, 2 weeks in place. It's not like you've got the other year when they beat Exeter and Sandy Park away. They had to stay on the road because of a COVID and go to La Rochelle, obviously away. So you're away from home for 10 days. And that has an effect on you. It mightn't be a huge effect on well-worn professionals, but I can tell you from personal experience, it does have an effect. Now, Leicester didn't have to do that. So they've got a whole lot of pluses going for them this year that they haven't had in the past. And I just think they're playing such great rugby. And, you know, we're all talking about Ronan O'Gara. And so we should. Ronan's a friend of mine, and I think he has done an absolutely sensational job, and he deserves huge credit for everything he's done. But that shouldn't stop us from looking at Leo Cullen and saying what a great job Leo's done in getting the staff together and the players together, having them all on deck. What a great path he has planned for this Leinster side to deliver them into the final in such great form and in such health. And then it's up to the players to do it. But Leo dodges the media. He keeps very low key. But what he's done is phenomenal. And he's one of Leinster's own. They're going to a final with 20 players born and bred in the province. Now, I heard you talking about the Champions League final coming up on Saturday night. You imagine if Liverpool were going to that with 10 of the 11 coming out of the Liverpool Academy. Like, that would be just, everyone would be jumping up and down. That's what Leinster are doing. Like, we're not giving, in Ireland, when I go back to Ireland, I find we do not give Leinster anywhere near the credit for what they have achieved and deserve, because that is an extraordinary achievement. If I go to talk to the Waratahs, or I talk to any other coaches around the world, one of the first things they always ask me is, tell me about the Leinster Academy. Tell me about that. Like, across the world, it's renowned for what it's doing. But we don't give it anywhere near the credit that it deserves, and we don't give Leo anywhere near the credit he deserves. And we have to stop doing that, because that's not just. It's not just on the Leinster team. And then when they lose a game, like they've done in the last, they made the semis, we say, oh no, they couldn't handle a big man. I just think that's really disrespectful to the team. And I'll switch this another way. I reckon these Leinster players are really fed up with this talk. I reckon they're not saying much outside. But if Will Skelton plays, mate, they're going to be all over him like a bad suit. Like, they're really filthy with what's been said about them and how they've been portrayed. And Leinster have a tradition of not saying anything to the media. They play a really straight bat. But within that group, there's a lot of anger, and it doesn't get expressed publicly, but they're going out to prove a point. So a quiet man carrying a big stick and very determined, they're dangerous. I found that in life. That's a team that you're going to have to really be at the top of your game to beat.
You've spoken there about the changes, I guess, that you can look at compared to the last couple of years and some of those disappointing results from Leinster's perspective. And I just wonder sometimes, I know he's got so much credit, but I wonder, do we often still downplay the importance of Jamison Gibson-Park in this Leinster team? I guess you've been speaking about the Leinster Academy, and I'm talking here about one of the players that didn't come through the Leinster Academy, but he wasn't there last year, he wasn't there the year before, he wasn't there the year before in the games that they lost. I mean, in fairness, Luke McGrath did start the 2018 final that they won. Gibson-Park didn't come on till around the hour mark in that game, I think. But I wonder, even just him being an international player at this point, being an Ireland player since 2020, has that helped bring his level on to a different place over this season, kind of at a belated point in his career?
Yeah, without doubt. And I think it's a very good observation. The pace that he gets the ball away this season compared to past seasons is it's just not on the same page. He has improved out of sight, and it has been a massive aspect of Leinster's play that has created the pace of their game. So this, and like everything in rugby, it's like an ecosystem. It's an environment. So there's a couple of things happen. First of all, the forwards are hitting the ball at pace. They're using footwork, which means and they can offload, which means the defence have questions. So if they're tackled, the Leinster forwards, like Ireland, tend to be tackled in an area that lets them place the ball quickly, so that it's a fast ruck. Now, that's one aspect. The next aspect is the scrum half has to get there and get it away. And Jamison Gibson-Park is getting there at lightning speed, and that ball has gone in incredible speed. The pace of the rucks and the exit of the ball from the rucks I think it was the 4 rucks leading up to James Lowe's first try against Toulouse were under 1.5 seconds. I mean, there's about 15 movements that have to happen to get that ball away in that period of time, which is really extraordinary. And that then puts the ball into the genius decision-making hands of Jonathan Sexton in rapid time that the defence just simply can't react to. They don't have time to react to it. And what happened in that try was the ball hit Sexton, the defender came at Sexton, he made the great decision, just pop it back on the inside to James Lowe, and James Lowe scored the try. Now, that's a microcosm of what Leinster are doing all over the park. And Jamison Gibson-Park, the accuracy of his pass, the length of his pass, and the speed of his pass from the second his fingers touch the ball to it hits the intended receiver is absolutely brilliant. Some of the best I've ever seen. 2 years ago, he wasn't doing that. He wasn't playing like that. Again, why? You've got to give Stewart and the Felipe Konopomi at Leinster huge credit for the improvement in the skills in those all the players, but especially our backline players.
And Andy Farrell for picking him when he wasn't first choice at Leinster. Like, he was like, yes, no, you're straight in here. You're in my 22, 23 guaranteed. And then actually you're straight in the team as well.
Yeah, without doubt. Andy Farrell's contribution to how Leinster are playing and a national philosophy that extends from schoolboy through academy, through a province, into national team, and is delivering success. He deserves massive credit because that's what a national coach's role is. And then selecting the players where he sees and giving them opportunity. And James Lowe, we've got to put that in there. James Lowe was poor 2 years ago. And look at James Lowe now. He reinstated James Lowe. He said to him, James, you go away and work at these aspects you're playing. If you do it, we'll give you another chance. And he did. He was as good as his word. And look how James Lowe is playing. So Andy Farrell and his coaches, for the change they've implemented in the national team and what they've done, deserve huge credit. And they are doing a great job. We've got our test matches coming up against New Zealand. And look, that first test match against New Zealand, Ireland are in it with a red-hot show away from home. And that's, again, your environment, your ecosystem. That is a national philosophy. Leinster and the national team are enhanced by following the same philosophy. Just as we look at New Zealand, Auckland or the Crusaders are enhanced by having the same philosophy as the national team of New Zealand. It's a system that has proven to work across the globe. Amazingly, very few countries do
it. 3 quick comments for you, right? Dave Cos on YouTube says, Rod's going to get the job done. The Leinster scrum goes backwards. Leinster hubris will lead to their downfall. I'm like, what Leinster hubris? And then I'm reading the other clips, the other comments. The La Rochelle halfback pairing is very weak for the final. It's going to be a blowout, says Flying Hellfish 99. And then Brian Murray says, the team Leinster put out last weekend against Munster would beat La Rochelle. So, there's a bit of hubris there.
But opinions are like backsides, mate. Everyone's got one. It's only going to matter what happens at 4:45 Ireland time, 6:45 France time at the Stade Velodrome. There is one big thing, which is quite ironic for Rowan O'Gara. In the Heineken Cup, West, their kicker, is averaging 78%. They're not going to win the final on 78%. They're going to rely on turnovers, kicking to the corner, mauling, and penalty goals. They'll score some tries. The question is, Leinster have averaged so many tries. Can their defence hold them out? Kurt Barlow, highly doubtful to play. He's got 2 broken bones in his hand. Ronan's suggesting he's going to play with a hurling glove. I really doubt that he'll be able to pass with 2 broken bones in his hand. Victor Vito has a very bad ankle. And Will Skelton has only played a few minutes of rugby in a month. He's a giant human being. Look, it's stacked against La Rochelle. There's no two ways about that. It's stacked against. It's not impossible. But Leinster have got the bit between their teeth. They've got the form on the board. They've got a fire in the belly, and they are out to prove something. And they also know the stars have aligned. This is an opportunity for them. They're going to be very, very hard to beat. La Rochelle will have to play better than they have played all season to get a win.
Matt, enjoy the game. Great to have you with us. Thanks a million.
Thanks, guys. Great to talk to you.
Hope the allergies aren't too bad.